Are you working for the Americans?
I love my country.
No. Call the police.
The narrative unfolds by seamlessly shifting between the daily lives of our two main characters situated in Russia. Initially, we encounter Dominika Yegorova, a renowned ballerina, dutifully caring for her ailing mother. Following a doctor's appointment, Dominika entrusts her mother to a caregiver and proceeds to her workplace. Within the theatrical realm, she undergoes a transformation, adorning herself in makeup, preparing to meet guests, including her uncle, Ivan Egorov, the deputy director of the Russian Secret Service. During this encounter, Dominika is introduced to Dmitry Ustinov, a Russian mobster who, inappropriately, requests a photograph and seizes the opportunity to make unwanted physical contact. Subsequently, as the play commences, Dominika, dancing exquisitely, faces an unforeseen mishap when her partner unexpectedly jumps, leading to a leg injury. Urgently, Dominika is rushed for surgical intervention. Simultaneously, we delve into the life of Nate Nash, a CIA agent engaged in a phone call with an automated system delivering coded words. These words serve as a key to decipher the location for an impending meeting. Armed, Nash heads to the chosen clandestine rendezvous, a park at night, only to become aware that he is being trailed by an unidentified car upon arrival. As he proceeds, Nate Nash encounters an enigmatic figure known as Marble, exchanging an item as they casually cross paths. Despite this covert interaction, the persistent pursuit of the trailing car prompts Nate to divert attention by firing shots at the ground, initiating a chase. Seeking refuge in town, he finds himself surrounded by police just before reaching the American embassy. Meeting with superiors inside, Nate learns the asset is secure, yet he faces repatriation for his misstep. The following day, Ivan meets with Colonel Zakharov and General Vladimir Korchnoi. They present Ivan with footage of Nate's park meeting, revealing him as a CIA agent who left the country. However, their primary focus lies on identifying Marble, the other man involved. Shifting the scene, Dominika awakens in the hospital to discover her leg immobilized in a metal frame, prompting tears as she realizes her dancing days are over. 3 months later, still reliant on a cane, Dominika receives a visit from Ivan. He remarks on the swift discovery of her replacement and details how the theater had been providing an apartment and covering her mother's medical expenses, a support that ceases with her departure. Expressing a desire to assist, Ivan encourages her to reach out when she feels ready, leaving an envelope behind. Upon opening it, Dominika confronts images revealing her former dancing partner's romantic involvement with the replacement and a recorded conversation suggesting his intentional act to facilitate the replacement. Later that day, Dominika observes her ex-partner and the new dancer rehearsing in the theater. Following their practice, she clandestinely trails them to a steam room, witnessing their intimate encounter. Consumed by anger, Dominika employs her cane to subdue them before hastily escaping. On the bus ride home, she notices her hands stained with blood, prompting her to disembark. At a payphone, she reports the incident as an accident. Upon returning to her apartment, she discovers her mother alone on the bathroom floor, with the caretaker absent. Her mother discloses the theater's discontinued payments as the reason for the caretaker's absence. Faced with limited options, Dominika turns to her uncle for assistance, who agrees to help her under the condition that she aids him in a particular matter. The Secret Service seeks information on Ustinov, whom Dominika encountered at the theater. Ivan urges her to approach Ustinov, befriend him, and win his trust using her charm. Initially resistant, Dominika relents when reminded of the subpar state hospitals and the promise of the best doctors for her mother. That very evening, Dominika, adorned in the provided dress, visits Ustinov's hotel. Positioned at the bar, she waits for him to initiate contact, which he does. Expressing a desire to feel special, Dominika lures Ustinov to her room. Amidst their encounter, an unknown man in a black helmet appears and swiftly ends Ustinov's life. The man instructs Dominika to cover herself with a coat, leading her through a discreet exit to a waiting motorcycle. At an abandoned building, the mysterious man reveals himself as Sergei Maturin, a fellow Secret Service agent sent by Ivan. As Ivan and Korchnoi monitor Dominika through security cameras, Ivan proposes that she could be valuable instead of being eliminated. Changing locations, Ivan confesses to withholding information about the impending event in Ustinov's room, citing Dominika's likely refusal had she known. He extends an offer: she can undergo training to become an agent, emphasizing that refusal leaves her unprotected. Succumbing to this reality, Dominika departs for the institution days later, welcomed by Matron, the headmistress of Sparrow School, who assigns her a new identity for her time there. Matron speaks on how the current world is in chaos and how Russia is the only country willing to make sacrifices to fix it. Sparrows, spies who specialize in seduction and psychological manipulation, will be trained on the students. Dominika and another student, Victor, are brought to the front of the class and instructed to strip. Victor does so without hesitation, but Dominika does not. Matron chastises her for it. We then turn to Nate, who has been summoned by the CIA's discipline panel and informed that he will be suspended for his error in Russia and will be unable to leave the country. Nate objects since their mole, Marble, has been working with Nate for 3 years and refuses to trust anybody else, but he is not heard. Back at the Sparrow School, Matron informs them in a lecture that they must be able to determine what their targets want. She shows various videos on television as samples for them to work on. Matron tells all of the trainees that they must learn to manipulate their bodies and teaches them some rudimentary seduction techniques. Back in the United States, Nate notices he is being followed and alerts his superiors. He discovers that the CIA hasn't heard from Marble, and he uses the opportunity to remind them that if Nate approaches him, he will talk. They come to an agreement. Nate is barred from returning to Russia, but they propose sending him to a neighboring country, ensuring the Russian Secret Service is aware of his presence, anticipating Marble's reappearance. Nate agrees, opting for his team to accompany him. Simultaneously, at the school, students are tasked with welcoming soldiers returning from war. Dominika selects a young man, bringing him to her room where she adeptly provides him with assistance. Later in the day, Matron and the students review video recordings of their interactions with the soldiers. While Matron commends Dominika's technique, she asserts Dominika still needs to learn to fully surrender. Post-class, Dominika heads to the showers, where she becomes the target of an assault by Victor. She defends herself by grabbing the wall's water tap and striking him with it. Meanwhile, Ivan, Korchnoi, and Zakharov are contemplating Nate's relocation to Budapest. They want to do something about it, but they are aware that the president does not want them to do anything that could be perceived as hostile to the United States. Ivan suggests delegating the mission to someone else. Matron and a recently arrived Korchnoi interview Dominika about her attack on Victor at the Sparrow School. Korchnoi requests a minute alone with Dominika because Matron believes she still has promise. Once the room empties out, he resumes questioning Dominika. She articulates her commitment to owing and serving the state, not her classmate. Permitted to return to class, Matron summons her to the front once more, with Korchnoi monitoring through a security camera. Dominika is presented with a picture of Victor upon his entrance, and she is queried about his desires. Matron instructs her to fulfill his wishes, and surprisingly, Dominika acquiesces. Frustrated, Victor withdraws when teased about his inability, and Dominika, in response to Matron's inquiry, discloses that he seeks power, a revelation that impresses Korchnoi. Shortly after, Matron confides in Dominika, revealing her imminent return to Moscow. Days later, reuniting with her mother at home, Dominika receives a call instructing her to meet Ivan at a restaurant. At the rendezvous, Ivan briefs her on the upcoming mission. She's to be sent to Budapest to befriend Nate, gaining his trust to uncover the mole's identity. Equipped with a new passport and documents under a different name, Dominika departs without partaking in a meal. Arriving in Budapest days later, she settles into an apartment shared with fellow Sparrow Marta. Meeting with her new boss, Station Chief Maxim Volantov, Dominika requests information on Nate. Subsequently, she shadows Nate to understand his routine. The following day, Dominika begins frequenting the same swimming pool as Nate, strategically positioning herself for him to approach when leaving the building. Engaging in casual conversation, Dominika adopts a coy demeanor, playing hard to get, while weaving a fabricated tale about serving as an embassy translator. However, the following day proves perplexing as Nate is absent from the pool, and the receptionist reveals her ID has gone missing. Unbeknownst to Dominika, Nate is already aware of her deception. He briefs his superiors, highlighting her use of multiple aliases and linking her to Ivan. Acknowledging her value, Nate proposes that her use of the real name is a deliberate provocation. After deliberation, his superiors reluctantly permit him to draw closer to gather intelligence. Following a progress report to Volantov and a request for an embassy pass, Dominika visits the embassy, where she observes Marta conversing with Stephanie Boucher, an American politician. Nate interrupts her observation, admitting to pilfering her ID from the pool, and invites her to dinner the next evening at 8. Dominika agrees before departing. Back in her apartment, Dominika investigates Marta's room, uncovering evidence of Marta purchasing intelligence from Boucher. Despite Marta's return, Dominika remains undetected. Marta hands her a copy of the report sent to Moscow by Volantov, indicating that Dominika has acquired a formidable adversary. After her workday, she tails Volantov to a bar, coaxing him to provide a more substantial report by taunting him about his inadequacies. She skillfully provokes him into violence, capturing the altercation on security cameras. Dominika then leverages the recording, threatening to involve the police unless he improves the report. Meanwhile, Nate, thinking he's been stood up, leaves a restaurant, unaware that Dominika is closely shadowing him. In his apartment, Nate deciphers another coded message on his phone, revealing Vienna. As he prepares to depart, Dominika, now in tears, rings his bell, and he reluctantly lets her in. Over a shared whiskey, she discloses that his boss assaulted her. When Nate questions how she found his address, she raises the TV volume for privacy. Dominika probes him about the Russian park incident, sealing her inquiry with a kiss after his disclosure. Advising her to figure out her desires, Nate instructs her to leave. The following day, Ivan visits Dominika, inquiring about her progress with Nate, emphasizing their superior's growing impatience as he prepares to depart for Vienna. In a bid to stall, she fabricates collaboration with Marta on the voucher case, claiming she requires additional funds. Ivan agrees, and as he departs, Dominika discreetly glimpses at his passport. Later, Marta confronts Dominika, angered by the supposed collaboration on the voucher case. Dominika assures her of credit and increased compensation, admitting she lied for more time. Marta reluctantly acquiesces due to a lack of alternatives. Subsequently, Dominika travels to Vienna, establishing a bank account, while Marta visits Valentov, revealing her plan to eliminate Dominika. Returning home that night, Dominika discovers Marta murdered in the bathtub. Sergei appears, warning her about the consequences of sharing secrets and instructing her to call the police before vanishing. Meanwhile, Nate reports meeting Marble in Vienna, who provides files confirming Dominika as a Sparrow, heightening Nate's interest in recruiting her. Simultaneously, Dominika faces police interrogation but remains silent. Outside the precinct, she finds Nate waiting. Back at his place, Nate confesses knowledge of her Sparrow status, prompting Dominika to share her story, emphasizing her concern for her mother. Nate proposes she become a double agent for him, ensuring her protection. She defers, needing time to rest, and he offers his room. Later that night, she joins Nate on the couch, seeking reassurance before engaging intimately. The following morning, after accepting Nate's deal, Dominika resumes her routine. Crafting a fabricated report on Nate, claiming control over him, she returns home to await his signal, a phone call with her favorite song. Meeting Nate's superiors, she undergoes a lie detector test, earning their trust. Requesting funds, they initially scoff but reconsider when she offers information on Boucher. The team flies to London the following Friday to meet Boucher. Dominika occupies a specialized hotel room crafted by the CIA, equipped with surveillance cameras and a concealed set of discs beneath a desk for later substitution. While she waits for Boucher at the bar, Valentov unexpectedly appears, ostensibly offering assistance. To avoid alarming Boucher, Dominika directs Valentov to her room. When Boucher arrives, Dominika, posing as Marta's envoy, persuades her to stay by hinting at perilous photos and referencing money. In Dominika's room, Valentov awaits as Boucher exchanges the discs for cash. Pretending to inspect the discs on her computer, Dominika covertly swaps them with the CIA's. Subsequently, Dominika and Valentov depart, instructing Boucher to wait an hour before leaving. However, Boucher, anxious and intoxicated, departs sooner, sensing she's being followed. In her apprehension, she discards the money in a trash can, crossing the street where she tragically succumbs to a fatal truck collision. Dominika, accompanied by Valentov, receives the news in their car. Valentov discloses immediate orders to return to Moscow, confiscating Dominika's passport upon arrival. Ivan takes charge, retrieving the discs from Valentov and arresting him, placing both Dominika and himself under suspicion of aiding the Americans. Despite intense torture, Dominika withstands interrogation, even when shown a video of Valentov being shot for deceit. Manipulating Ivan into protecting her, she is permitted to return home, yet the experience leaves her feeling tainted, refraining from her mother's embrace. After a challenging meeting with Korchnoi and Zakharov, Ivan returns home, finding Dominika waiting. He informs her of the granted request to continue working on Nate. She kisses him before departing, returning to Budapest to meet with Nate. At his apartment, he voices suspicions about her swift release. Dominika persuades him to relocate both her and her mother to America, securing additional funds, and their agreement culminates in an intimate encounter. During the night, Dominika is roused by a disturbance and discovers Sergei torturing Nate in the kitchen. Initially feigning allegiance to Sergei, she aids in hurting Nate to extract information about the mole. However, seizing an opportune moment, she retaliates against Sergei, aiding Nate in breaking free from his restraints. A brief scuffle ensues, culminating in Dominika fatally stabbing Sergei. The following day, Dominika awakens in the hospital and steps out for a cigarette. Korchnoi, revealing himself as Marble, approaches her. Fearing imminent capture, he implores Dominika to expose him, envisioning her as a national hero who can assume his role as a mole. Though she provides no definitive response, after he departs, she checks on Nate and surrenders herself to the police. In police custody, Dominika demands to see the Russian ambassador. Once face to face, she instructs him to contact Zakharov, informing him that she possesses the mole's identity, offering it in exchange for her freedom. A meeting for the exchange is arranged at an airport later that night, with Nate accompanying her. He harbors anger, believing she manipulated him, but Dominika unveils a surprise. The Russians unveil a bagged individual, only to reveal her framed uncle Ivan, who she fabricated evidence against since her arrival in Budapest. Nate quickly realizes Ivan is the actual mole. Following the exchange, a Russian sniper shoots Ivan, and Dominika is airlifted away. Back in Russia, she is hailed as a heroine, securing a prosperous life with her mother. The movie concludes as she receives a phone call, with her favorite song being the sole audible sound on the line. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell if you want to watch more videos like this. Thank you for watching.